back and welcome to another book review. I have no idea why I put off reading this book for so long. I think I knew I wanted a chunk of time to be able to sit down and read it, because I felt like with this author I was probably going to want to read all of it all at once, and that is what I did. Last Friday I sat down, I had a day where I had nothing planned. I sat down and I started this book. I read a lot of it in the bath, and I finished it in the one day. And that book is Little Do We Know by Tamara Ireland Stone. You've seen it on a couple of my TBRs. I know it took me a while to get to, but once I got to it, I read it. And that was that. Just take a moment to appreciate this beautiful cover. Obviously, I got this book out the library. I had it on hold from way before it was published because I knew I wanted to read it as soon as I could. And then I was out the country and doing X, Y, and Z, and then when I finally got to reading it, it was great. So this book concerns Hannah and Emery, and they haven't spoken in months, not since the fight, the one where they both said things they couldn't take back. And we don't find out exactly what that fight was until almost the end of the book, which is very intriguing. Now, Emery is fine-tuning her UCLA Performing Arts application and trying to make the most of the months she has left with her boyfriend, Luke, before they head off to separate colleges. Meanwhile, Hannah's strong faith is shaken when her family's financial problems come to light, and she finds herself turning to unexpected places and people for answers to the difficult questions she's suddenly facing. No matter how much Hannah and Emery desperately want to bridge the 36 steps between their bedroom windows, they can't. Not anymore. That is until their paths cross unexpectedly when, one night, Hannah finds Luke doubled over in his car outside her house. In the aftermath of the accident, all three struggle to understand what happened in their own ways. But when a devastating secret about Hannah and Emery's argument ultimately comes to light, they must re-examine the things they hold true. And we have alternating chapters. We have one chapter from the point of view of Emery, and then one chapter from the point of view of Hannah. And that is how the book progresses. I would say, to me, the book felt like it came in three parts. We had the first 100 pages, then the middle 200 pages, then the last, well, maybe the middle 230 pages, and then the last 60 or 70 pages, because this book is just under or just over 400 pages. Just under. And to me, it felt like it could almost have been given the labels like part 1, part 2, and part 3, because the three parts of the novel feel quite distinctly different. This is a novel that deals with the issues that young people are facing, and the fact that those issues don't always fall into the stereotypical boxes that we think they do, but they still have to deal with all the things that every other young person has to deal with. So we talk about college applications, we talk about, little things that happen between friends. We talk about finding a boyfriend or a partner, or having a crush on someone, and then the pressures that you find once you're in a relationship with someone. And then we have the different pressures that come from family, the just general mom and dad, or mom or just dad kind of pressures. And then what if that parent is a little unreliable, and it might be unreliable in the fact that they have a mental illness, or it might be unreliable in the fact that they don't always tell you everything, or that they're not always around or work long hours. And then we add into confusion about religion, then we add into college applications, then we add into that struggles with money, and all of these things add up. And I think that one thing which young adult writers today are doing really well is showing the impact that just one extra thing added to the baseline of issues that young people have whilst growing up and trying to get through school and having this massive injection of hormones and all these new people surrounding them. Just adding one thing to that can be a tipping point. And I think that this book does it really, really well. It is very compelling to read because of the structure, the fact that we have Hannah and we have Emery alternating points of view. I definitely warmed to Emery as we went along. I didn't love her in the beginning. I thought she came off as a little bit selfish initially. However, when I got to know her situation and got to know her background, got to know a little bit of her kind of hopes and dreams in a sense, I definitely warmed to her, and I really, really wanted to find out what had gone on between her and Hannah and caused this argument and this falling out. The scenes with Luke and the incident where Hannah finds him outside her house are quite graphic, but are necessary and are really definitely the dramatic, pace-changing point of the novel, and also make for a real page-turner. The two girls both have relationship issues, and we see various romantic relationships between the two of them. Not a romantic relationship with Hannah and Emery, but both of whom talk about past romantic relationships and current or future romantic relationships, and so there is a little bit of romance in this novel. But then we have another issue which not all teenagers thankfully will have to face, but something that comes to light which is very dramatic and which is quite controversial, and I think is handled just very well in this novel. It becomes quite dark. Again, we've got part 1, part 2, part 3. Part 1 is very much getting to know the characters and establishing who they are and what they're about and seeing those everyday worries. And then part 2 is, what happens when we add in another couple of items to their plate. And then part 3 becomes darker still, but in that way, what's that phrase? The night's at its darkest right before dawn, and that's very much the third part of this novel. It gets very dark right before we see some sort of resolution, and I thought the ending of the novel was done really well. We have a very satisfying resolution, which isn't necessarily a happy ending, but is a satisfying resolution, and a resolution that is fitting of this novel and these characters. And I just absolutely loved it. I just thought it was really well done and really well handled, and I like the fact that we expose what happens to young people when we add one more thing to their plate, and how that can affect them, and how that can affect them in different ways, even if it's the same plate and the same thing we add. And I think that's very important to explore as well. So definitely recommend this one. There is an author's note in the back of the novel, which if you are worried about triggers in any way, I would read the author's note first, just because, if you have any concern about finding things in the novel triggering, read the author's note and then make the decision for yourself. But otherwise, as I say, I would really recommend this novel. I loved it. I read it all at once, and go and pick it up. See if your library has it. My library has lots of copies, so I'm very lucky in that I've been able to hang on to this one for longer than I should have done. There we go. I will be back with another video soon, so I will see you with that video. Make sure you subscribe so that it lands in your subscription feed, and if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it, and yes, thank you so much for watching.